Hi guys, good evening. Okay. Hi, I'm Lydia. Hi, how are you doing? Okay guys, good evening. We tried to do this on YouTube on Monday and YouTube did the most. So decided that we're gonna be doing this on Instagram now, and we'll just upload this video to YouTube so you can always rewatch it and yeah. So I started this series on teaching parenting and what to do, what to know, what happens year by year as your child grows. And I decided to teach for ages 0 to 10 years. And so every Monday, I've been taking it from, year by year, what happens in that year and all of that, and the progression, how the child progresses, and most importantly, how you as a parent, how you progress. Now, this series is not just for parents, but if you are prepping to be a parent, you're a first-time parent, or if you're planning to be a parent in the future, this would be good for you. This is not just about teaching you about your kid, about what you should know. It's not just about tips and tricks. It's really about emotional intelligence and cognitive development and how that plays out in your parenting style and even just you handling children in general. Okay, you can call this therapy on IG or therapy, on YouTube or whatever it is, but it's really about us delving into the nature of you, the nature of your child, and then the nature of you as a person and how that merges. Yeah. And just for you to leave here as a healed whole person, and for you to figure out what's the best way that your child really needs to be raised, not by what you've been influenced by, not by what you've been taught, not by how you grew up, definitely not how you grew up, but what you really need to know. So we've already looked at from age 0 to 1 year, 0 to 12 months, and so today we're going to look at age 1 to 2. In that year, what happens for your child, and then what happens for you. Yeah. Okay, so I wish I could share my screen on YouTube. I shared my screen, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to upload a couple of slides in the video when I upload it to YouTube. So as we're going along, if you have any questions at all, if you have any questions from your childhood that you would like me to answer, you and I can talk about it, okay? And maybe, just maybe, we might open up. I might open up the live to connect with a few of you and see if you have any questions as to growing up or where growing up was concerned. Because really, what I want for you is not just to learn, but I also want you to heal. Yeah, because it's really important. It's really important. All right, so let's get into it, and then we can keep talking as we're going. So, parenting age 1 to 2 years. What to know? So my kids were watching a cartoon a few moments ago, so I really had to reduce the volume. So parenting age 1 to 2, what's really important to note is that in this age, okay, all right, opening my slides, let's get into it. In parenting age 1 to 2, what's important to note here is you're going to look at different things that happen. There's a surge of development that happens. There's the mental and cognitive development, there's the emotional development, there's the spiritual development, there's the physical development in this age. But tonight we're going to look at just one. Okay, I will establish another platform where you can probably look at everything that I have going on together, but we're going to look at just the mental cognitive development of a child in the age 1 to 2 years, and then you look at your cognitive and mental development. So what happens when a child turns 1? Between age 1 and 2, you have a language, what we call a language explosion. And so you see that children go from saying a few words to combining two phrases at a time. And by the end of that year, they begin to put those two phrases into sentences. A bit of gibberish is still there, but they're able to at least put a few words together. And so you'd find that they're able to say not just syllables, they're able to put syllables together to actually form words, and then put one or two words together, and then that happens. So it's called a language explosion. You find that once your child is clocking the age of 1, they begin to articulate their words. And then you find that they have object permanence. Object permanence is mastered. What this means is your child now understands that things exist. And so it's not just about knowing that it's theirs, but it just understand that this thing exists. And so sometimes the thing that exists could be you, it could be their bottle, it could be their fluffy, their blanket, or it could even be a particular toy, But now they understand that things exist, and when they go out of sight, this now causes separation anxiety, which would describe, or which will explain the reason why when you leave a room or you make to leave a room, your child begins to cry. It's not because they want to be naughty, it's not because they're trying to be mischievous, it's not because they're trying to be clingy. The truth is, the way their brain works is they recognize that you are an existential part of their lives. And so you leaving causes the anxiety they feel, which they cannot describe with words, but via crying. And so you find that happens. And then also during this age, they also begin to problem solve. Now, this is going to be funny, it's going to be interesting, because I'm going to explain it to you. Now, when you say a child problem solves, what it looks like, what it is to them is their problem solving, but what it looks like to us is that we look at them as experimenting. Now, you find that they experiment through throwing things, just to see the reaction, just to see the cause and effects, just to see what will happen. They test cause and effect with pushing things, throwing things, ripping things apart, and this happens in this particular age. And then you also find that imitation kicks in. The child begins to copy what they see, copy sounds that they hear. They copy both actions and emotions, and so they're learning from everything around them. You find that they are mimicking the way that you regulate yourself, the way that you respond when you're upset, the way that you respond when you're happy. You'd find that in this particular age, they may not begin to articulate it properly, but everything settles, and they now finally understand that what you do is something that they can do as well. So in this stage, imitation kicks in. And then curiosity also peaks. Now, you'd find that, remember when you may not remember, but last week on YouTube, when we taught the age 0 to 12 months, we spoke about the fact that at that age, curiosity begins to creep in. But in this age, the age of 1 to 2 years, their curiosity is skyrockets. And so you find that they are constantly exploring, sometimes even in their sleep, in the middle of the night, they're constantly exploring. And this is because they are trying to form basic concepts of how the world works. So how your brain works is that your brain develops neural pathways. How you function in the world is that your brain develops neural pathways. So a pathway is basically, it's like a road, a pathway, and then the different things that happen on this particular path forms the thought or the mindset for this particular destination. That's how your brain works. And so in this age, the neural pathways in the child's brain is beginning to form. Hence the reason why they become curious. They ask questions, they do things, they experiment, they're adventurous, they go to places where they're not supposed to go, they lick things they're not supposed to lick. But this is the way that they are figuring out the world. They're figuring out the world through their neural pathways, and through to figure out the world through your neural pathways, they figure it out through their senses, all their senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, everything. So before I go on, I just want to say one of my favorite quotes from Benjamin Spock. Benjamin Spock says, "Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do." And I love this quote because in this stage of parenting, where it seems like your child wants to do everything and anything to unalive themselves, you find that you are a bit confused because you cannot understand the reason why you really want to help this child, or you really want to stop them from doing something, but they seem to never understand what you are saying. Some people call it the beginning of the terrible twos, but it's not the beginning of that. It's really just the beginning of their curiosity, the beginning of their experiential mode. And so yeah, you know more than you think you do, because the truth is you know what's best for your kids. So I want you to keep that at the back of your mind. So the second thing to know, or what you need to know next is, now I've explained what happens with your child, especially when it comes to mental and cognitive development in the age 1 to 2. But here's what you need to know, because we can look at what's going on with the child and say, oh, okay, this is important. This is what's going on with my kid. But then how do you navigate that? Because that's what I'm here to help you do. Yeah. The first thing you need to know is that right now in this stage, your kid's brain is like a sponge. And so children are absorbing language, they are absorbing tones, not just language, but the tone of the language, the tone of how things are spoken, how things are said, how things are sung. They now begin to understand or take in, not necessarily understand, but they begin to get a glimpse and a little understanding of how tones work. You know, so they're soaking up language, tone, they're soaking up reactions as well, hence the reason why they learn how to mimic, you know, or imitate. They're also soaking up the environment, whatever environments that they're in. Even if they can't fully explain it yet or talk about it yet, they're soaking and taking it in. And so what you need to know here is everything is important. Every sound, every word you speak, every conversation you have around them. Even if they're upstairs sleeping and you're downstairs, your conversations are still important because they are in the atmosphere, in the environment where your child resides. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but inanimate objects are actually living. And these things also soak in the different conversations that you have and the different sounds that you release in your home, and your children are privy to that. So everything is important. Every word you speak, every tone of how you speak your words, every tone of how you converse with them, how you converse with other adults and other kids and other people in general. You know, everything is important because at this age 1 to 2, your child is soaking up everything. Second thing to know, your child is learning how the world works. So every why isn't always spoken. At this age, they can't ask you why. They can't say how come. But what they would instead do is they would ask questions through their actions. And so they would do this through throwing, climbing, repeating the cycle. And so even if you said, hey, get down from there, you're going to say it 10,000 times, because it's not that they want to disobey you. It's not that they want to be mischievous. It's really because they're trying to understand. Yes, you said get down from there, but why? Why should I get down from here? Why can't I stand here and figure out how the world looks like from up here? Why can't I jump from this chair to the next chair? Because I'm thinking, you know, this could be an amazing, a brilliant idea. And I want to figure out how I can move from this chair and land on the other. It seems like this would be great. And I need to figure out how this will work. So it's not that they want to disobey you. It's really because they want to figure out how things work. Remember, cause and effect. This is the age where cause and effect kicks in, and that's what you need to know. So be slow to anger. That's what I would say. It's not easy because, hey, you repeat things over and over again, and you get upset because you really can't see the end of how things will work or how things will play out, and they can't. But then, when I say be slow to anger and you roll your eyes and you're thinking, it's easy for you to say. What I would say is this: your frustration and lack of patience, where understanding how your child's brain is working and how they're operating, speaks to a deeper challenge with you and not them. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So number 3, the third thing to note is repetition is how they learn. Again, so get down from there, you say it 10,000 times, but they will not learn the first 3 times. they have to repeat a cycle, especially a cycle of you saying no and them before they understand that no means I don't get this. No means really don't get there. No means really don't lick that. No means really get down from there. They repeat cycles over and over again. Repetition. It's just like also reading a book over and over again. That's how they learn. You know. So you cannot you can't place or pit. What's the word now? What's the phrase I'm looking for? You can't be readily patient, or be ready to be patient to read a book over and over again and not be ready to close the door over and over again, because it works the same way in your brains, and that's how they learn. Repetition is really how they learn. It's a lot of work for you, but again, patience is needed. Okay, reading the same book over and over again, repeating routines, singing the same songs, watching the same shows, going to the same places, eating the same food. If you have a picky eater, shout out to you. These things aren't boring, and these things aren't causes for mischief. They are really just building neural pathways in their brain. This is how they learn. This is how they figure out the world. Where was I? Skipped my notes. Okay, all right. So the fourth thing to know is children at this age 1 to 2, they think in images. Okay? They think in images and in feelings and not logic. I'll say it again. They think in images and feelings and not logic. Children age 1 to 2, they are not logical, they are not rational, and so if you explain things to them, chances are they would not understand what you're saying. But they will understand emotion, and this is why tone is important. They will understand emotion, and they may not even understand emotion, but if you appeal to their emotions, yes, that's when they get it. It's also the reason why they have sporadic bursts of emotions, because they cannot curb or curtail their emotions. They're not logical. What they know is that they're feeling this, and everything has to be felt 100% right now. And when I say that they think in images, they're visual beings in this moment. And so you want to explain something to them, use something that they can see. Use objects they can see, use screens they can see, help them visualize in their minds. When you talk to them, help them visualize in their minds what you're saying, and this will work better. Yeah? Okay, so last thing for you to know is that these kids, age 1 to 2, they can't reason or share yet. Okay? I know you say, hey, share. Princess, I need you to share. My love, I need you to share. But the truth is, it's not about your needs. It's not about what you want. And the truth is, just like I said before, they're not logical. They can't reason yet. Remember that they have also begun object permanence. And so object permanence doesn't just mean separation anxiety. Object permanence also means ownership. Like, okay, this is mine. And you're asking them to share, it doesn't make sense because they can't reason that yet. Okay, I mean, he came over to play. Why didn't he come with his toys? Stuff like that. But I want you to understand that they're still learning object permanence and ownership, and so mine is normal. Allow it. It's a phase. It's not going to be there forever. Okay, and it's not a telltale sign that you have a kid who is selfish, and it's also not a telltale sign that you're a bad parent. Okay, because a lot of times the reason why we get upset when our kids don't share, or when our kids don't reason well, or our kids are irrational or emotional, we feel like it's a telltale sign on us. When we get upset, it's really that we're upset because I asked you to just shush. People are looking at us, but the truth is, it's not about you, and it's not about the people who are looking. It's really, really about the fact that your child is going through something, and their brains are working in a way that you need to be patient enough to understand, to help them navigate that time, that moment of their lives. Yeah? All right, the time for discipline will come, but at this time, not so much. What your children really need, ages 1 to 2, is more understanding and patience than discipline. Okay? You may not want to hear it, but yeah. The discipline that they would need at this stage would be your structured discipline. Yeah, not the discipline that you guys think I'm talking about. No. Okay, so what I want to throw in here is, so in considering all of this, what kind of voice do you need to have as a parent? When the child clocks age 1 and they're moving into the second year, but in that phase, in that year, and in considering everything we just spoke about, what kind of voice do you think is important for your kid? What kind of voice do you think that they need to hear constantly? I would say, think curious coach plus calm narrator, okay? Remember that things to consider. Right now, your child is in full-blown experiential mode. They are curious Johns, or curious James. Right now, your kids are not logical, extremely emotional. Your kids are visual. Your kids are sponges. What kind of voice? How do you help them navigate the season of their lives? Especially when I say discipline isn't really important. Again, I would say think curious coach plus calm narrator. And here's why. And here's what this means. Be clear and simple. Okay? Whatever you do, use short, consistent phrases. If you want to get them to do something, go straight to the point. Explanations won't work here because the truth is they will not understand what you're saying. So use short, consistent phrases. Get down, please. Don't make it longer. Get down from there because you're going to fall. You've lost them. You lost them again. Get down, please, and say that over and over again. Remember, repetition is key here. Time to eat, and make it sing-song, because guess what? The reason why they would readily The reason why they would readily be attentive when you put on Miss Rachel, you put on, please don't let your kids watch CoComelon, please, I beg you. When they will be readily attentive to Dave and Ava is because the narrators who are speaking there, they're calm, they're sing-song, they're melodious, and they seem like they're really interested in what the kids are thinking, and they're also making what they're saying interesting as well. And so you have to think that way as well. You have to operate that way. I know you might say, I'm Nigerian, I'm African, we don't work that way, but hey, guess what? If you want to get through to these kids, you have to think like that. And you also have to be curious as well, Second thing, or second kind of voice, or second way your voice should be predictable and be calm. Remember, now I've used calm twice now. Be predictable, be calm. And what this means is your tone. Your tone teaches them safety and emotional regulation. I'm going to pause here. In getting through to your kid, it's not about the sternness or how stern you are or how you shout. It's never about how you shout. Because the truth is, the only thing that yelling does, yes, it gets them to pay attention, or yes, it gets them to do what you want them to do, but it really causes them to have a dysregulated nervous system. That's one. Two, it teaches them fear. Once you teach your child fear, you've lost their trust. Once you lose their trust, you gradually lose their ability to pay attention to you, their ability to trust you, their ability to focus, yes. And what you want is your child to really focus on what you need them to do, or how you need them to be, or just on what you're saying. And once fear comes into play, the truth is, whenever we yell at our kids, they freeze. It's the reason why I say, I'm talking to you, I need you to move. You yell at your kids, they freeze. Once they freeze, they lose focus. When your child is quiet, they're spending time trying to think about what you're saying, trying to process what you're actually asking them to do. And it's not that they don't want to move. It's not that they want to move slowly. It's that they're processing and they're trying to pick up the pace. And when they eventually move quickly, it's because, again, fear has kicked in. So I'll say this again. You need to be predictable, you need to be disciplined, and you need to be calm. Because that's the only way to get through to your kids. And when I say predictable, what I mean is this. You need to always have a routine of things that they do. A routine that you guys do together, so that they know what's coming. it's really important, especially for this age of 1 to 2. Extremely important. Routines, structures, disciplines, extremely important. You also need to understand that your child is not, when we spoke about the fact that children at this age aren't logical and they can't reason, and they always have sporadic bursts of emotions, it's because they don't know a thing about regulating emotions, and that's on you. That's on you. Your child is going to borrow your nervous system. They're going to learn how to regulate themselves from you. And so you have to be the calm that they need to be as they're growing. I'll say it again. You have to be the calm that they need to be as they are growing. If you don't want a child who yells and screams when they're upset, then you don't be a parent who yells and screams when you're upset, because it's the same thing. It really is the same thing. Okay, it doesn't change the fact that your child will yell and scream at different points in time, even when you're being calm. What is important is that over time they learn how to adapt because of what you show and what you demonstrate. That's what's important to know. Be descriptive, not just directive. You want your kids to get down, you want your kids to go have a bath, you want your kids to know something. Be as descriptive as possible. Remember, I spoke about the fact that they think in images. They don't think with logic. They think in images. And so label what you want them to do. And also when it comes to emotions, label what they're experiencing. For example, you're mad because the toy fell. That's how they learn how to give words to what they're feeling. They don't have the language. They don't have language. They don't have the gift of garb just yet. They're going to learn how to explain what they're going through because you help them be descriptive. And so when you see your child going through something, when you see your child, even whether it's, they're upset or whether they're happy, learn how to be descriptive for them, because your voice is the voice that they will eventually have as they're growing. I'll say that again. Your voice is the voice that they will eventually have as they're growing. You're happy because this person came over. You're happy because you're going to see grandma, or you're upset because you're hungry. Are you feeling sleepy? Be as descriptive as possible, so they learn that when they're feeling these are the words to say. This is the language to have. And then finally, the kind of voice that you need to have is you have to be encouraging, and you have to have an encouraging, exploratory voice. An encouraging, exploratory voice. And, say things like, let's try this together, instead of, you do this, or don't do that, don't do that, please stop. Parents say that all the time. But when you want them to stop something, how about you give them an alternative? And how about you encourage them to do what they should be doing, instead of yelling at them to stop? Yeah. If I came to your office, or I came to your home, and you're supposed to be praying, but you're scrolling through Instagram, and all I'm doing is saying, stop scrolling, stop. You would look at me like, what are you like? You could have just said, you could have just reminded me to pray. That's exactly what kids need. And that's exactly what we do to kids. We yell at them all the time. And sometimes even if we're not yelling, we just expect them to know. But the truth is, they're still children. They're basically still babies, and they're still growing. You are the one who needs to have the encouraging voice, the exploratory voice, the descriptive voice, to let them know, hey, we shouldn't be scrolling right now. Or remember, be short and consistent. No scrolling, time to pray. Yeah, no scrolling, time to eat. Well, I say scrolling because that was the example I gave for you. But what about we try? Can we try? Let's tidy up together. Yeah, let's tidy up together. Time to shower. Let's tidy up together. Or clean up time. Can we clean up together? You try this and watch how they immediately lapse into, oh hey, we're doing this together. This is teamwork. This is group work. It's the reason why kids love the clean up song. Yeah, it's clean up, everybody, everywhere, because we're all doing it together. It doesn't feel like you're commanding them or instructing them, because remember that they're human beings, and human beings would naturally revolt when they feel like they're being pushed around. Yeah, nobody likes to push around. So yeah, that's the kind of voice you need to have. Let's recap. what kind of voice you need to have as a parent as your child clocks 1 to 2. You need to have a clear and simple voice. You use short and consistent phrases. You need to be predictable and calm. Remember that you are the nervous system that your children borrow. You need to be descriptive, not just directive. Remember that you need to help them label whatever it is that they're experiencing, whether happy or sad. And you also need to have an encouraging exploratory voice. Say things like, let's try this together, let's do this together, instead of, don't do that. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah? Encourage them, do it with them. Let's see how that goes. All right, so now we've looked at the kids, and here's where it gets really interesting. We've looked at the kids and how they grow mentally, and how their mental and cognitive development forms when they clock age 1 to 2. But what about you as a parent? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about the fact that as your kids grow, you grow as well? Yeah, let's talk about that. So after this, we're going to go into, I'm going to open up the live and just take one or two of you. And if you're a first-time parent, or you have a kid who is aged 1 to 2, or you just have kids, yeah, let's talk. I want to ask you some questions, and I just like you to consider that. And I want you to ask me questions as well. So as we're going, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. And yeah. So as I was saying, as your child grows, you grow as well. So you grow. It's real cognitive work, and it's important to note. So here's what develops in you as your child grows. As your child clocks 1, and they're growing towards 2. Here's what happens with you. You have an increased awareness of your child's individuality. What this means is you begin to see your child as a person. They're no longer a baby to you. You begin to see your child as a person, and you're also seeing them as a person with preferences. It's so funny when they tell you that they would like something else instead. The way my son prefers long sleeve shirts to short sleeves any time, any day. But then you see them as people, little people with preferences, and then you also see them as people with boundaries. They don't want you to touch some things. They don't want to go some places. They learn how to say no. And they're also little people who have expressions now. They can express themselves. They can say no. They can say yes. They can say yay. They can express how happy they are, how upset they are. They can even let you know how upset they are with you, if you let them. Yeah, you should let them. What happens with you as well is that you develop cognitive flexibility. What does cognitive flexibility mean? This basically is when you learn how to adapt to expectations and responses. You learn that what worked for your child when they were 6 months old, it really doesn't work for them now that they're 18 months old. So you learn how to adapt, and it happens so smoothly that you don't recognize it as something that's actually a big deal. You learn what they like to eat, or how they like to eat, or how they like to sleep when they were like, even when they clocked 1, it's not the same as when they're like 1.5. You learn how to adapt to changes. And you also learn how to respond to these changes, which is a big deal for you. And you'd find that this doesn't just pertain, as this happens when your child grows, it doesn't just pertain to your kids, it would pertain to you and everything else. You'd find that adapting and responding to the changes that happen with your kids teaches you how to adapt and respond to changes around you, changes at work, changes when you're driving out, changes with your car, in your marriage, in your family. At church or wherever you find yourself. And it's such a beautiful thing to know that your brain actually expands in that way. You also learn you also develop pattern recognition. When you're dealing with your kids, or when you're raising your kids, they have different patterns for different things. And the reason why you know this is because you've seen it, you've observed it. And the thing is that you can also begin to develop or observe the patterns that happen in other areas of your life as well. You find that you start to predict routines. You start to predict when tantrums are likely to happen or whether they're not likely to happen. You also start to predict what can soothe your child at different points in time and what can overstimulate or understimulate them. But you also find that you begin to discover this about yourself as well. It's the reason why parenting is such a healing thing. You begin to discover all of this. You recognize these patterns, not just about your kids, but about yourself. You recognize these patterns around about other people as well. It's the reason why sometimes when you have kids, your circle begins to grow smaller because you begin to see things for what they are with other people, and you decide whether you want that to stay with you or not. You know. You also, here's one to note that I think is really important. What happens with you is you get to a stage where you have decision fatigue and a mental load. And so you find that the constant micro decisions you make where your kids are concerned, like what they're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how they're going to eat it, because you don't realize how crazy your kids sound or your kid is until you're trying to dictate to somebody else how they like their eggs, what they like their eggs in, what they like their eggs on, and the temperature and everything. But you see, those are little micro decisions that you have to make nearly every day, not just with your food, with their sleep routines, with your clothing and all of that, with the things you have to buy, the things you have to consider, the places you have to go, the things you have to keep up with. Your brain expands in this way. You'd find that the constant micro decisions actually stretch your mental capacity. We can look at it two ways. You develop a mental overload where because now you're raising another human being and you have to take care of them. But you can also look at it as you now have an increased mental capacity. Because for you to be able to think for yourself and think for another person, it means that your brain has indeed expanded. The capacity you have to make decisions, not just for yourself, but for another human being. And some of you have multiples. And so you're making mental decisions for micro decisions for more than one kid. It means that you have an increased mental capacity. Now, the reason why I say it this way is because it's easy to look at the downside of being a parent. But then there is the beautiful part of it as well, because you find that because you have an increased mental capacity where raising your kid is, you now also have an increased mental capacity in doing every other thing in your life. You know? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. All right, so the last thing that I want to say that happens to you when your child clocks 1 is you have deeper emotional intelligence. And you can't trade it for anything. But you see, this deeper emotional intelligence will only occur if you allow it. And this is where I'm going to tabernacle and rest my case here. But hey, when I say you develop deeper emotional intelligence, what I really mean is parenting forces growth. And it forces growth in empathy. It forces growth in regulation. It forces growth in reflection. And especially when your child mirrors your unresolved emotions, you begin to see yourself for who you really are. Has that ever happened to you? You begin to see yourself for who you really are, how you really are, how you function, how you think, how you operate, how you react. Remember that in this stage, when your child is between 1 and 2, they begin to imitate, they begin to mirror, they begin to mimic. And so they would show you what you are showing them. So they're literally your mirrors in this stage. And you would see that because you can see how you really are, it'll force you to be better. It'll force you to grow. It'll force you to change. The change that you haven't been able to do for a number of years, or you didn't even know you had to do. Once you have a kid and once your kid gets to this stage, you begin to see how not okay it is to react the way that you do. You begin to see how not cool it is to say some of the things that you say, to have the conversation that you have, or to listen to some of the songs that you listen to. When your children begin to mirror your actions, and mirror your emotions, and mirror your defense mechanisms, your coping mechanisms, you begin to see how, wow, I think that I need to heal. I think that I need help. I think I need to see a therapist. Maybe I need to call any, So, these are the things that you should know about yourself when your child clocks age 1 to 2. Now, I want to ask you a question. Just get my notes. I want to ask you a question. as we've spoken a lot, but speaking wouldn't do much if we don't reflect and if we don't really think about how this pertains to us. So what I want to ask you is this: as your child's brain explodes with new words and discoveries and so many things, how is your own mind expanding? This one you don't have to answer me, I just want you to think about it. How is your mind expanding? How can you see your mind expanding? What new thoughts, what new patterns or awareness have you noticed about yourself? Because it's easy to just, think for only your children right now. Their children, raising a kid is demanding. It takes over your whole life. Sometimes it puts your life on pause. But not really. We'll talk about that another day. Not really. Yeah. Because that's culture. And that's a mindset that culture and society has given us, that your life is on pause because you're raising a kid, but that's not true. When you're raising a kid, it's the beginning of another phase in your life. Your life is not on pause. No, it's not. Because raising a child is phenomenal work. You're raising another human being who gets to be in society. And it's good work. It's important work. It's work that requires all of you, It requires all of you, your strength, your love, your patience, every fruit of the Spirit that you think you've never had, you have to develop it in raising this child. So yeah, that's what I was saying. It's easy to look out for your children. It's easy to think of them and say, hey, my child is beginning to speak. My child is beginning to put words together. My child is so adventurous now. My child is so curious now. He would literally throw things so that it would scatter and he can check what's inside, look for what's inside and try his best to put it back together. But what about you? Have you ever thought about that? What about you? How is your mind expanding? How are you thinking differently now? How do you observe differently now? And then another thing that I want to ask you, and as I ask this question, if you want to join me in the live, you can request and then we can speak about it. But I'm only going to be here for the next 20 minutes. My question is, when your child expresses big emotions like frustration, sadness, or defiance, what part of your own childhood responds first? I'll say it again. When your child expresses big emotions like frustration, defiance, sadness, what part of your childhood responds first? And just in case you're thinking, I think this will help you notice if you are reacting from wounded places, like being silenced or being ignored. And so when your child has big emotions, what the first thing you say is, keep quiet. My friend, keep quiet. I don't want to hear a thing. Fem, hold it. Your child is crying, you say, hold it. Then you see the child, and you say, hold it. And so you see, you reacting that way to your child. It's really a product of you being silenced when that was you. Or sometimes your child is crying and you refuse to look at them, even if they're standing in front of you. And that can speak to you being ignored when you were younger. So I'll ask again, when your child expresses big emotions, what part of your childhood responds first? You could also be responding from a place of conditioned patterns, whereby you yell at your child, stop crying, you're not a baby. That's a voice in your head that pops up when you are faced with a scenario that you've been in before. But that was the language that was given to you at that time, and it's the language you're giving to your child now. But it doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't even make it right. Or you could also be responding from a healed and aware place, whereby when your child expresses big emotions, the first thing that jumps out at you or out of you is, it's okay to feel this. It's okay. It's okay. That's all right. Cry it out. Cry it out. It's okay. It's okay to cry. it now depends what part of your childhood is responding, or what part of your present day that you worked on and have grown into is responding. Second question, what did you need to hear or feel when you were age 1, 2 that you can now give your child and maybe even yourself? What this does is that it opens up space for reparenting for you and healing by giving your child and your inner child what was missing. And sometimes what that looks like is safety. And safety doesn't just mean like a place where you stay, the place where you stay that feels good. No, safety is safety in the tone, in the handling. You know, sometimes when you're upset with your child or a child is crying, you pull the child like, come here, or go there. Things like that, they cause they begin to build insecurity in the child. And I'll explain that probably some other night. But yeah, could you give your child safety? Could you give them affirmation? I love you no matter what. You know, could you give them the freedom to be able to feel all their emotions? And could you give them the validation of curiosity? I know you wanted to write on the wall. It doesn't make it okay. I'm not saying you're always going to respond as calmly as I am, because listen, the example I just gave was something that happened tonight. My daughter wrote on the wall behind the curtain. When she hid behind the curtain, she knew she wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't handle it well, but then I had to go back and repair it. So yeah, can you give your child what was missing for you, or missing with you? What you needed then, what you still need now, can you give your child that? All right, so I'm going to leave room for questions. I said I was going to leave in 20 minutes, and we're just about there. If you have any questions, please just put it in the comment section. Any questions about parenting age 1 to 2, or anything we've spoken about so far, and if you have anything you want to share with me, a deep-seated fear or a worry or something that you're confused about as you're raising your kids, you can just put the comment or put a question in the comment section, or you can request to join the live. Okay, so okay, I didn't see this on time, so I think she's up. Okay, so if you want to join the live, just let me know, and we can talk parenting age 1 to 2. But then if you have a kid who's older than that, we can talk about that as well. And if you have any questions, you can just leave it in the comment section. I'll leave room for the next 5 minutes, and then I'll be off your screen. But yeah, okay. Hi, good evening. How are you?
My house on Saturday. My church will cook up some.
Okay. All right, we lost her. Okay, so in wrapping up, okay, she's here. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, this is somebody else. Mercy Esson, the Mercy Esson. Okay, I'm gonna try to add you. Okay.
Hi,
Hi, good evening. Hi, Mercy. How are you?
very well, thank
Okay. Oh, I like
you
your
so much.
hair.
Can you hear me clearly?
What did you say?
Martin, can you hear me clearly?
You're asking if what?
You can hear me clearly.
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're asking if I can what?
Hear me clearly. Can you hear
Yes,
me clearly?
I'm doing my best to hear you. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So, I have eczema, so I'm using one.
Okay, so do you have your earpiece in?
What?
Okay, what you can do, you can just bring your phone closer so I can hear you.
Okay. Is it any better?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Go ahead.
Okay, so I missed the session you did on Monday.
Oh, so good.
So I went back to practice. I wish I was like, and so when he like came on, even though I have three children, I have 4 year olds, a 3 year old, and then a soon to be born.
Okay, so
I think I'm
Mercy, I'm so sorry, but I'm really struggling. I can barely hear you. I lost you at you watched the live on Monday.
all right. Thank you. I was just trying to let me know the
Okay,
comments.
so what you can do is can you bring your speaker to your mouth so that you can probably speak and I can hear you?
Is it any better?
When you say is it any better? It is, but okay, just keep speaking. Let's see.
Okay, can you hear me?
I'm doing my best. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Carry on. It's fine.
Okay, so I requested to join because of my 4 year. I don't know if you can hear me.
No, no, I didn't hear what you said because it's not clear. So here's what we can do. Can you write your question in the comment section or is it a really long one?
All right, I will do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You can write your question in the comment section and then I'll do my best to answer. I'm just gonna hold on. So Mercy, I'll hold on for your question and I'll see if I can answer it before I go. Okay. All right. All right then. Okay. So she requested to join because of her 4-year-old. Okay. Okay. So somebody else is asking a question. How do I end? Okay. All right. It's fine. Okay. Hi Adash says, how can you teach yourself to deal kindly with your child? I get so frustrated and feel bad when I'm correcting gently. I end up shouting and feel bad. So here's the thing. When we're dealing with our kids, and you get to the point where you end up shouting, it's really a product of no, let me start from here. Every single time you have to remind yourself that you're dealing with a person who is not rational. You also have to remind yourself that you're dealing with a person who is not necessarily a person yet. When I say that, what I mean is they don't have logical thoughts. Yeah. And they are doing their best to explore. Children are often in their own world all the time. And once you ask them to do something, you ask them to go somewhere, ask them to get down from something, they have begun a whole world, a whole scenario, like a whole movie in their heads. And so you coming in, you must remember that you are always interrupting something. Always. It's not even about them watching a video game. No, it's that they're up here. This is where they exist. And they're very visual. They're very curious. They're very adventurous, very experiential. And they're very much involved in what's going on up here. And so you must remember that when you ask them to do anything, when you want to get their attention, you also need to consider what exactly gets the attention of your child. That helps because children are different. They're all unique. And what gets the attention of this child will not be what gets the attention of this child. I'm not saying drive them. I'm saying learn, observe, and understand your child. You could also try because when I spoke about the fact that I realized I didn't complete that thought. You're always interrupting something. Always give them preambles, okay? And remember that repetition is how your children learn. And so, yes, you're going to say it over and over again. It's not that they want to disrespect you, it's not that they don't want to listen. It's really because they're learning a lot of things. Again, you're interrupting something going on up here. They're trying to process what you said. You have said, come, let's go upstairs. And probably they're doing something before, or maybe they weren't doing something before, but they're processing it. You'd watch if you give them time and take a beat, you'd see that they process that mommy said come, mommy said let's go upstairs, and she said let's, that means we're going together. And so they put all these things together. So it really does come across as if they want to be defiant, but they really aren't trying to be. And in cases where they really are blatantly defiant, the truth is they're learning how to say no. They're learning how cause and effect works. Um, they're learning about the fact that they have a will. they can say no. And so when we get frustrated, it's really, again, a telltale sign of a deeper challenge with us, a deeper challenge of impatience, a deeper challenge of the feeling of being disrespected, a deeper challenge of frustration. You really want to get something done, but it's not getting done. And they are at the, what's it called? They are at the crux of it. You know, it's not being getting done. It's not getting done. It's not happening, and they're the crux of it, you know. And so you find that, you know, your frustration is also, it's due to a deeper, it's a telltale sign of a deeper challenge with you. And so you have to figure out, you have to get to the root cause of why exactly you feel frustrated. Sometimes it's not really about the fact that your child didn't listen or they didn't do what you asked. It's about something else. And at all times, you always have to deal with that something else so that you can actually be gentle with your kids. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll see if there's any other question. Mercy, I didn't get your question. You said you requested to join because of your 4-year-old child, but why? I need to know so that I can get out of Instagram and off your hair. Mercy, if you're still there, you still have about, you know. Okay, so I have a 4-year-old and it's challenging parenting him. Why? Why is it challenging? I can't wait for us to get there to age 4 to 5, or age 3 to 4. Let me know why it's challenging. You can just say something briefly in the comment section. I'll see if I can answer before I go. It's almost 9 p.m. and I have to run. Why is it challenging? I'd like to know. If you would like to join the live to ask me a question, feel free to request and I will take your questions. Another thing to note is I really want you to sit back and reflect on the questions I asked you. And I asked 3 questions. One, the first question is this: as your child's brain expands and grows, you know, when they develop new words and new discoveries, I want you to think of yourself too. Yeah, how is your mind expanding? What new thought patterns do you have? How are you observing things and experiencing things differently? You know, sometimes we feel lost and we start develop resentment as parents because it feels like our lives stop. But truth is, our lives don't stop. We just don't consider ourselves enough. You know, and you need to give yourself some credit. And so when you notice things about your kids and it makes you laugh and it's cute, notice things about you too. Remember when I said that, you know, your child grows mentally and they have cognitive development, you also have cognitive development as well. The Okay, so Mercy says, okay, Ada, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Mercy says, he's defiant and strong-willed, hits us, defiant, and talks back when rebuked. Okay, so your child is 4. It means that, you know, a lot of this began when he was much younger. But nothing is too late. It's never too late, okay? You must understand that when I spoke about the fact that at age 1 to 2, your child is very adventurous, very curious. They learn how to be defiant. They learn how to do things. They're also very. They also develop, like I said, they're learning that they have a will, and so they're learning how to express their emotions, how to express things that they want. They're learning how to express boundaries as well. But you see, one thing that and it's interesting because it was the last thing I was going to say before I leave tonight is that don't forget that you're the parent. Okay, don't forget that you are the parent. You said you propose not to hit and yell, but you're now doing that. Yeah, I get it, but you must understand that before you get to the point where you hit and you yell at your child, if you've gotten there, it means that you've lost some semblance of control. I'll say this because if your child can push you to get to the point where you yell or where you hit them, it means you've lost some semblance of control and you're desperate to get it back. You must not forget that you are the parent. Your child is growing. You are the one who sets boundaries of how they grow. You are the one who sets the standard of how they grow, what they grow into, what they grow to become. You are the one who teaches what is right, what is not, what will fly in this household and what will not. Yeah? And it's not just about your household, it's really about him growing as a human being. And so when certain things happen, your children will yell and they will scream, but remember, they're borrowing your emotional regulation. And your emotional regulation is not just about, hey, he's crying, okay, sorry, give him what he wants. No, it's not about that. You learn, you teach them how to be calm. You teach them, you be their calm, but you stand firm on the decision that you've made. If your child is crying because they want something that they're not supposed to have, you help them to calm down. You be there for them. Do not ignore. Do not ask them to stop crying because they're not being naughty. The truth is, if you want something, you can't get it, you would be frustrated too. It's just that you wouldn't cry as loudly as he's crying. But it doesn't mean that you give in to his every want, need, and desire, especially when you know what's best for him. Also, when your child begins to hit, which is a natural phenomenon with children because children do not know how to properly express their emotions. And so they would bite, they would hit, they would do all sorts of things. You are the one who needs to firmly let them know that it is not allowed. That is not how to express what they're feeling. And so if you're going to teach your child, no, we don't express by hitting, how then do we express? If you're going to tell a child, no, don't do that, there should be an alternative of what to do. Because children don't know the rules, you do. Again, don't forget that you're the parent. Okay? Don't forget. I hope that was helpful. I've got to run, guys, but thank you so much for hanging with me. We'll see you again on Monday. On Monday, we'll talk age 2 to 3. If your child just clocked 2 or your child is between age 2 and 3, let's talk. Let's hang out here on Monday. And if you have a child who's, much older or much younger, we can still hang. Okay? We can still hang. And it's going to be a lot more interesting. I'll ask a lot more questions. I'll give more time for you guys to join in the live. And we'll see how we can talk about some real life experiences and how we can tackle them as well. The most important thing here is not just in dealing or in raising your kids. The most important thing is how you are healing and how you are growing and learning how to be a parent. That's what's most important. Yeah? That's what's most important. Thank you so much for hanging with me. God bless you guys. I'll see you again on Monday. You can look out for this video on YouTube. I'm going to upload the video to YouTube so you can watch it there over and over again. And yes, I know I said last week Monday that an emotional assessment form is going to be available. The truth is, we looked at it and saw that it still needed so much more work. And so we're working on it. It's an emotional assessment form for parents in general that would help you process, help you heal, help you just pause, yeah? And help you think over not just your parenting style, but your mindset as an individual. And I can't wait for you guys to take it, yeah? It's available for a token. It's not free, but it will be available pretty soon. One of these days, we'll let you know. Just keep looking out for it, okay? All right, so see you guys next week, Monday, same time here on Instagram, 8 p.m. WAT. Good night, guys. You have all my love.